So this is the 3-year anniversary of the day I almost died. I was still doing Brown and Friends at the time, and we were recording the dialogue, and I was leaving the recording studio. There was a delivery truck that was blocking my view, and I'm driving my 1973 Datsun 240Z, which I had had since high school. I got that car right before my senior year of high school. So I couldn't really see. And sometimes you gotta kind of like go out a little bit and so you can see. I saw that there were 2 cars coming, and so I stopped. And I turn around to put it in gear, put it in reverse and back out of the way. I thought that like I might get clipped. You know, maybe just nothing happens. The speed limit there is 35. Plenty of time for those people to see that there was a car there and for them to stop. I get hit really hard. It totaled my car. I was T-boned. If they had kept going in the direction that they were already going, they would have missed me or they would have just clipped the front end. But they didn't. They cranked the wheel and brought the full force into my car and into me. So it fractured basically 80% of my ribs. 4 of my ribs were completely broken through in multiple places, and ultimately needed plates in order for my rib cage to be able to hold itself up. It also fractured both hips. It fractured my right pelvis, collapsed my lung, lacerated my heart, and ruptured my spleen. And so I remember thinking that was harder than I thought it was going to be. And then I have a little gap of time that I don't remember. Well, I wake up and I'm looking around, and there's all these people around my car. And I feel like I've had the wind knocked out of me. And I remember I could smell gas. And the people are saying, don't worry, the paramedics have been called, they're on their way, just stay with us. And I remember thinking I just got the wind knocked out of me. And so I did that thing that you do where it's like, I'm okay. And when I did that, I started to slide off of the driver's seat. And I started to slump over into the passenger side. And that's when one of the people around the car kicked in the passenger side window so that they could unlock the door and stabilize me, which probably saved my life. There are many things that happened on this day that saved my life. I'm very much lucky to be here. I'm so lucky that there was no spinal trauma, there was no head trauma. And I don't remember them taking me out of the car. I don't remember being in the ambulance. So it was about 3:00 that happened. And it was around the time that my wife was getting home with our daughters. I parked my car in front of hers in our driveway. And she had texted me to see if I wanted her to wait to pull in until I got there so that I could pull in, she could pull in behind me. And she didn't get a response. It was about 6:00 that she started to think that it's really weird that I haven't heard from Seth. And I'm just gonna swing by the studio to see. And as she enters the intersection, she can see a bunch of broken glass, and she could see a piece of the back of my car. And that's when she realizes I had been taken to Cedars-Sinai, which probably also saved my life. It's about 8:00 that she finally gets the information that I'm at Cedars-Sinai. And she gets there about 9:00. The security has no information that I'm there. They don't have my name because I was such a trauma situation that they didn't go through my pants to find my wallet to get my name. Like that was all secondary. When I got the property bag of my clothes, it looked like Edward Scissorhands had taken my pants off because they were shredded. My jacket too, just shredded. I wake up in the surgical ICU, and I have no memory of the things that had just happened. And so I wake up and I'm in this kind of dark hospital room, and there are doctors and nurses all there, and they notice that I'm awake, and they turn and they try to start to tell me what happened and where I'm at, and ask me questions like, do I know what my name is? Do I know, what day it is? Do I know? And I just thought, like, this is a fucking weird dream, and I'm going back to sleep. So I went back to sleep. And then I wake up again, and I'm still there. And I was just like, this is too weird. What's going on? Why do I keep waking up in this dream? This is not a dream. This is a nightmare. When I wake up the third time, it's about 10 o'clock. And I know that because my wife had finally made it to the room. And I think, oh, thank God, Tanya's here. She can get me out of this. So I go to sit up and I can't because I'm strapped to the bed, and I'm intubated, so I can't talk to her. And they notice that I'm moving and I'm trying to get up, and she comes over to calm me down, and she says the same things that they had been saying. That you were in a very serious car accident, and now you're at Cedars-Sinai, and they're taking very good care of you, and all you need to do is rest. And she told me that she loved me, and I went back to sleep. And then I slept for about a week. They had me in a medical coma because the pain from all the injuries was just too intense. And even when I woke up, the pain was just unbelievable. You know how when you go on a trip and you're in waking up in a different environment, maybe you're a little jet lagged, so you're not completely yourself when you wake up. That was how I was waking up, like every time I woke up. And I would forget that I was in the hospital. I would forget everything that had happened. And then I would wake up and I would not know where I was. But then it would come back. Oh, right. I'm in the hospital. I was in a horrible accident. And I kept, every time I woke up, it was like, why am I still here? Why? It must be very serious. And I would start to have a panic attack. And I ended up spending 16 days in that room in surgical ICU with a lot of morphine in my system, which brought a lot of hallucinations that thankfully were just funny. I could have sworn that there was a channel actually on the hospital entertainment system where it was like a choose your own adventure, film noir, murder mystery kind of a show where you could not only pick what was going to happen next in the show, but which character you were going to follow. At one point when my wife was visiting, I asked the nurse, hey, where's that show? I can't find that channel. What's that channel? And I described it to her, and she was like, yeah, that's not a thing. I could have sworn that outside of the hospital room, they were practicing for a Scrubs musical thing that they were going to shoot. And that they were, all sort of rehearsing the singing parts and stuff like that. And then I asked the nurse when he came in, what are you guys shooting out there? Because he was like, yeah, no, it would actually be, again, we would break so many rules of the hospital if we were actually filming anything out here. That's not a thing. And I was like, nah, come on, you can tell me. I won't tell anybody. He's like, still not a thing. At one point, there were a couple of nurses that I don't know that they were a thing. There was one in particular that had a Squid Games jacket on. And I was like, oh my God, dude, I can't believe that they let you in here wearing that jacket. Like, that's kind of like wildly inappropriate to wear in a hospital setting. And he was like, they don't even know the show, so they don't know. And, you know, in hindsight, I don't know that he was actually there. And so they wanted to transfer me to a rehab facility for 2 or 3 more weeks, so that they knew that when I went home that I could get around on my own, I could bathe myself on my own, I could use the bathroom on my own, but I wanted to see my girls, so I came home in a wheelchair. The walking for any long distance on the pelvis was too painful. It was a walker around the house, and it was like very small steps. In those first like couple of weeks to months maybe, just getting in and out of bed was so excruciatingly painful. I had an area on the wound that was getting a little angry, and so they popped the staples and packed it with gauze. So that was another thing that my wife had to do when I came home, was to twice a day change the gauze in the hole in my chest until it closed up. So it's a new level of intimacy that no one ever wants. That was a thing. So like, what's the takeaway from all of this besides the motivation of like, I don't want to leave my wife a widow, I don't want to leave my daughters without a father. When all of that was not a concern anymore, then my thoughts came to all of the projects, the things that I've done that no one has seen, that I was really proud of. I very freshly am aware of the fact that any day it could be done like that. And so all of the things that you want to do, that you're like, at some point I'm gonna do, you need to fucking do that shit now, because you don't know what's gonna happen. You could be pulling out of a parking lot that you've pulled out 100 times before, and that could be it. So now I don't think about how much time I have to do the projects that I want to do. I think about how little time I have to do the projects that I want to do. I'm 53, and I think about, like, I don't know what it looks like, moving forward. Like, how much is this now going to impact the rest of my life? How many years were just shaved off of the end? Is the point where I stop being able to do art closer now? So I think about that kind of every day, and whenever I'm like doom scrolling, which we all end up doing, eventually that's the thing that snaps me out of it. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, stop doing that and start doing something. You always wanted to do these things. Now you've got a second chance, so do those things. I did a book last year, The Bush That Wants to Be a Tree, a story that was waiting for me to tell it for 35 years. And so last year I did that book. Now this year I'm working on my Never Wonderland project, which was a project that I was developing just after 8 Crazy Nights, around the same time that the Kingdom Hearts pilot happened. And so now I'm, putting more effort into like making that an actual thing. Even with YouTube, I'm gonna spend more time doing this tell my stories. So they're not all gonna be like this. None of the other ones are gonna be like this. I hope none of the other ones are gonna be like this. This is really painful and it feels very like soul bearing. But I also feel like that maybe this is sort of putting this story to bed a little bit. So if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I'm sorry that how emotional this was. I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna hope that the camera is still recording.